Hey folks, welcome to another webinar brought to you by streamingchurch.tv. Today we're going to talk about 12 tips for a successful streaming Easter service. And I want to say first off that you could use these tips that we're going to share with you really for any event for that matter, and even your regular Sunday morning events. There's some good information here. We obviously are emphasizing Easter because Easter is one of the biggest times of the year for people to attend church and also watch church online. So we've got a little bit of time here, so you should be able to implement some of these things that we're going to talk about here in the next couple of weeks, as Easter is at the end of the month here. But we're glad that you're here. Thank you so much for being with us. Do me a favor if you would, and just make sure you mute your audio and turn off your video. We will have a Q&A after this webinar. We don't plan to go very long, maybe half hour, maybe a little bit more, but we'll do a Q&A, and you can always type in your questions in the chat anytime, and we'll address those here at the end of the webinar. So just very quickly, as I mentioned earlier, this webinar is brought to you by streamingchurch.tv. We are a company that has been serving churches exclusively now since 2001. And it's our privilege and our blessing to be able to help your church and help your ministry. We have lots of tools. Streaming video is, of course, one of those things. We have other things coming up as well. So we're here to serve your church, and that's the plan. So let's move on here a little bit here. And I will just quickly introduce our host. I'm just going to go ahead and, for the sake of time, introduce them, and they can talk a little bit later as they address some of these tips that we're going to go over today. Steve Lacy is our founder. He's our CEO of streamingchurch.tv. He has been involved in local churches all his adult life and has been involved in leadership, not really on staff, but involved on boards and leadership teams, and is a very active volunteer with his local church when it comes to streaming video. I've known Steve since the mid-1990s and worked with him since 2008. Michael Gray is here. He is another guy who I met about 15, 16 years ago on staff at a church I used to be a part of. I later joined him a little bit later again, and he does our customer support here at streamingchurch.tv. He has loads of experience when it comes to ministry and even some stuff outside, what you might say outside the scope of ministry, with social media platforms and all sorts of good stuff. He'll be talking to you. My name is Phil Thompson. And I have been involved in ministry since I was just a little kid coming out of the womb. No, not maybe that soon, but probably since I was 18, I started involved in ministry, and streaming video has been a big part of it as well. All right, so let's move on here a little bit, and we'll talk about what we're going to talk about today. What are we going to discuss today? Well, we are going to talk about defining your goals. That's important. We'll talk about your budget when it comes to streaming and doing your service. We'll talk about promotion. We'll talk about preparation, your equipment, your personal preparation, which is a little different than just the equipment preparation. And we'll also talk about, cover just a little bit about graphics you could use for your streaming video. And of course, your team is very important. And follow-up, I think, is really important when it comes to doing streaming video. So as we talk about 12 tips for a successful streaming Easter service, let's cover the first one. Tip number one, you need to define your goals. What do you want to achieve when it comes to your streaming video for Easter? And reaching new people, do you want to do that? Do you want to attract the younger generations? Do you want to reach homebound members? Do you want to create an archive library? All these things, you really want to think a little bit about them, and because it's going to have a lot to do with, do you want to do some advertising? Do you want to set up things a certain way, depending on who you're trying to reach here? So make sure you take a look at that. And sharing your message globally, of course, is important. So just consider that when it comes to defining your goals. What do you really want to achieve here?
Yeah, because you're going to take a different angle depending on what your goal is. One church may have a goal for attracting younger generation. So Easter's going to look completely different online than it would for, having a different goal.
Yeah, very important to really consider that if you have not already. So Steve, let's talk about tip number 2 here when it comes to having a successful streaming Easter service. Preparation really is the key, isn't it?
Preparation is the key. We are 2 weeks out, right? 2.5 weeks out from Easter. So one of the keys is to make sure that you are prepared for the service. So going through all the details, so we're going to walk through some of this a little bit further on. Doing a walkthrough, this is something that we do at our church each week before a service, where we walk through the entire service, and we don't actually word for word, but we get through the entire service. Key thing that's going to cause issues this on Easter Sunday is equipment. So make sure that you get the oil changed and get it tuned up and ready to go. Another key element is, I mean, this happens once a year. This is one of the most reverent events of the year. Make sure that the attitude of your leadership and the attitude of your staff is in line with, this event as well. Make sure you include your leadership team. Leadership team should be the ones driving all of this prep. So scheduling the walkthroughs and making sure that everything's in order.
Communication really is the key. And all these things, as you just mentioned, preparation is so important. So do not overlook that. Preparation is the key. And let's address Mr. Michael Gray. What about encouraging your members to share the stream? What about that?
Well, people love to invite others to your Easter experience when you make it easy for them. So provide them with invite cards. It can be a postcard size, a business card size, easy to say, hey, be my guest. Secondly, make sure that your invites are digital too, because the best way to invite now is to share on whatever social platform your attenders are part of. So on their social media, make it easy, make it a link that is shareable. Somebody can click it and find out about how to come to church and the things that they need to know. And then whoever's speaking, announcers, pastor, you got to challenge people. If you don't challenge people from the stage and remind them that this is a time of year when people are most likely to consider an invite to church. So challenge people to take that step, invite people to come to church on Easter.
Michael, we used to have a saying, I think it's with your church, and the one I used to be a part of, and that is every member is a minister. And so it's not just the responsibility of the people on staff, and everybody's a part of this whole thing. And also, one of the things you're fond of saying, you'll always remind our people, and some of the things we've done in the past, is that when we talk about talking it up from the pulpit, it's not just talking it up once.
No. It's our irony is churches fall into the trap of saying, "Oh yeah, we announced that once." You have to repeatedly, and I always used to tell my team that until your ears bleed from hearing it again, you haven't talked it up enough.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it?
And I feel you've got some radio stories about songs that you were like, if I hear that again. But people were just still discovering those songs when your ears were ready to explode.
Yeah.
That is communication and doing it effectively.
That's right. All right. So let's go to the next tip here. You mentioned social media. So promote using social media. Talk a little more about that, Michael.
Well, obviously, our first step there says purchase ads. So this is where you're going to reach out to people in your community, and you can build proximity ads that are going to target people within, say, a 20-mile radius of your church. It will target people who are looking for a church. You can do all of those things with ads, whether it be through Google or social media ads, to target people who are looking for a church. You want people to come? There are literally people looking for somewhere to go. And you can connect the dots with an ad to help. It also adds a layer of impressions so that when somebody hands out an invite card, they say, you may have seen one of our ads online, and there's a good chance they have. So they may have seen an ad 3, 4, 5, 6, hopefully 7 times. And they say, hey, man, would you be my guest? And they get the hard invite, and people show up.
Yeah, synergy.
Videos. Video, video, video. We know this. Everything video is more, because it's motion and because there's somebody talking to you on the screen, it gets more attention than anything else you can produce as an invite. But be sure to create events on every platform that allows it. And in the imagery that you're using, make sure it's colorful and bright and represents who you are as a church. Interactivity, make sure as people are asking questions, they're engaging, they're having conversations with you. What time is your church? What kind of church are you? All of that. Be involved and listen and watch, and then make it super easy to share. I always like to say, one click easy. Make your invites, digital invites, one click easy to help people get the shortest route to the most amount of information possible.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's Brady Shear is somebody that's been working with churches for a long time. He's with Pro Church Tools, and I want to show a short little video. He gives an example here of a good social media post by a church in, I think it's in Massachusetts, Legacy Church. Let's see if we can run that.
Here's a great idea for your church's next social media post. I've seen churches publish this, and by far, it's their best performing piece of content. For example, this is Legacy Church out of Massachusetts. Scroll through their Instagram reels, and you'll see they're posting consistently, getting a couple thousand views per average on their posts, which is outstanding. But then, look at this. Boom! 500,000 views on this post with the title, 3 Biblical Declarations to Pray Over Your Finances. Keep scrolling, another 500,000 views. Same post design, this time with the title, 3 Biblical Declarations to Pray Over Your Children. And another one, this one with more than 750,000 views with the title, 3 Biblical Declarations to Pray Over Your Finances. These kinds of posts will work on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. They're vertical videos taking biblical truths and formatting them into a list. To help you with this, I've created a template that you can download, but there are a few very important editing tips that you cannot ignore if you want to see traction on these posts the way that Legacy Church did. Now, most people will overlook these, but props to Legacy Church because it's these little things that together contributed to those posts going viral for them. Now, using the template I'm sharing with you, these are the 3 different posts I made. The first with the title, How to Respond When You Don't Have It All Together. The second with the title, When You Need a Fresh Start. And the third one, 3 Things Jesus Says About You. And before we go any further, I just want to point out how versatile that this post format is. You know, Legacy Church came at it from the angle of a guided prayer using promises from Scripture. I love that. My versions here are starting with problems of identity, hopelessness, and lack of purpose, and then using promises from Scripture to combat those problems that every person has faced at some point in their life, irrespective of faith background. These are just 2 ways, though, of using the list post format. The potential for ideas is really endless.
All right, Brady Shear does a great job. Pro Church Tools, check it out. All right, so let's go on here like nothing wrong happened. Tip number 5. I'll edit this so when you watch the recorded version, you'll never know it was a problem. So tip number 5, uplifting backdrops for stage. So I use the word uplifting because, what people see on your video, and even when they attend your church services, having a nice backdrop on your stage really can add to the experience, can really capture people's attention, really add to the whole event. So as Brady Shear, if the video plays, we'll be talking a lot about how lighting is very important. Easter banners, the different places you can hang up within the facility, as well as your stage area. Coroplast is a great piece of material that you can use to enhance your stages, your platforms. PVC pipe's another one. And if you look over to the right of this slide, you'll see prochurchlights.com is a good place when it comes to looking for lighting for churches. Outreach.com is another great, I've used them for years for Easter banners and other things you can use not only for your stage area, your platform, but also around your church. Church Stage Design Ideas, churchstagedesignIdeas.com is our friend Jonathan Mom, and he does a great job in giving you some opportunities here. So let's see if we can play this video
as
now.
well. The average church in North America is just around 200 people. So before we get into stage design and how to create great looking stages on a small budget, I just want to make very clear that if you are a smaller church, you're not abnormal and you're not in the minority. You are the majority. So really, using the word small church or smaller church is not really even fair because you are the norm. And the reason I say this is because when it comes to stage design, often we get our inspiration from the big churches. And when we get our inspiration only from big churches, well, it usually means that we're also getting our inspiration from the big budgets. At the very least, budgets that are bigger than ours. So let's dial that back for a moment and talk about 3 ways to create great stage designs on a small budget. First things first, it's important to be clear about this one main thing. The most important part of your stage design is your lighting. Stage design is 75% lighting, and as my friends over at The Creative Pastor have said, wood palette walls like the one behind me, they're going to come and go, but the lights that you have on stage can be with you for decades. And so when it comes to your stage budget, whatever amount that may be, prioritize the purchase of lights over everything else. And that's my first suggestion for you as a church trying to design a great looking stage on a small budget. Forget the trendy stage items, just use lighting. And to bring this example to life, let's take a look at this shot from my church. Here we have shimmering LED strips in the background, and it's kind of hard to see. Not only are there LED strips on stage here, but there's also a rain wall, if you can believe it. And yet, despite these 2 crazy elements, the most dramatic part of this stage design is the twin streams of light that are backlighting our worship leader and creating a dramatic silhouette. 2 simple backlights outshining LED strips and a freaking rain wall. Simple is good. Of course, if you want to move past stage designs that are only lighting, let's talk about 2 wildly inexpensive materials that you can use to create amazing and immersive experiences. Firstly, Coroplast is still the king of budget stage designs. I did an entire podcast. It's linked below with Jonathan Malm. He's the creator of the popular site Church Stage Design Ideas. And the number 1 material that he recommends churches use is Coroplast. It's inexpensive, it's flexible, it's adaptable. You can shape it, you can light it, and it won't simply create just a single look. I did another podcast with a pastor of a church plant called Creating Beautiful Stage Designs on a Church Planter's Budget. And this church's stage design was done almost entirely in Coroplast. And if you want to hear more from that podcast, it is also linked below. Finally, the third and final stage design idea on a budget uses PVC pipe. In this video, you'll see our church stage design uses LED strips, but you can create a virtually identical look using inexpensive PVC pipe. And much like Coroplast, PVC pipe is inexpensive and it's a great receiver of light, meaning you can color it however you want. Link below is an entire post on PVC pipe from my buddy Jonathan Malm, again over at Church Stage Design Ideas, if you want to get a fuller breakdown of how to use PVC pipe to build a stage design. The most important things to remember here is that lighting is the most important element by far when it comes to your stage design. Prioritize lighting and then use adaptable and inexpensive materials like Coroplast and PVC pipe to supplement your lighting.
Good stuff here by Grady Shear, Pro Church Tools. Good information here. And again, you don't have to have a lot of money to actually create a nice little stage area. Talk about the next tip when it comes to tip number 6, your volunteers and your staff checklist.
Yes. So there's one of the things we do at our church is we have a run through every week, and it includes pretty much all the items that we have on this checklist here. But we'll get together, whoever's working the service, whoever's going to be the cameraman, the sound guy, the worship band. Typically, we use this time as time for the worship band to practice and have everyone that's associated with the service, including the pastor, including those that are up making announcements, to kind of get up and run through things, checking things like microphones. Is the microphones working? Is the cameras working? Did the lights come on when they were supposed to be? I'm the back room live encoder switcher guy. So is switching working okay? Is our presentation software that's going to go up on the screens in the front of the sanctuary, is all that working? I'm going to do a speed test to make sure that my internet is looking good and there's no potential issues there. So I'm just going to run through everything, kind of get everything fired up and go through it once. you would be amazed the amount of times that we had the exact opposite experience that we're having here. Because we'll go through this and we'll have all kinds of issues, and we're like, oh my gosh, computer's right in the middle of an update, or this thing's not working, and I don't know what's going to happen, and these microphones went out, and we experience all this stuff in the run through. We get to the service, and everything just works like a charm. That's usually what happens, as opposed to us with this presentation where we went through and had no issues on the presentation and everything fell apart in the live part.
Right.
But anyway, that's the volunteer staff checklist. That's one that we use at our church, and one we recommend as well.
Yeah. Tip number 6, make sure you do this, and really should do it every service, especially for your Easter events. All right, so we'll talk a little bit here about tip number 7, pre-roll videos. So this is interesting. This is a great little tool that you can use when it comes to pre-roll videos. You can use them as maybe you have something like a countdown timer before your live stream starts. So this, of course, presupposes that you're streaming before the actual event officially starts, which we would recommend that you start your stream before. Like if you have a 10 o'clock Easter service, start the stream well before that. And if you can have some content on there as well, like a countdown timer, you can get these at the various places. I'll try to run one. I'll try to roll the dice and run one. You could also do something where you have maybe your own video that you create, or you can purchase a video like a countdown video or some kind of a pre-roll video that you could use, that you could run before your Easter service starts. And then something that we'll get to later, if I don't completely fall apart, and that is have an end of service video that might be good to have after your streaming service starts. Let's see if we can run an example here of maybe like a countdown timer. That's by Motion Worship. And here's something else you could run, is maybe a pre-roll video.
It was supposed to be a day of mourning, a day of defeat. It was a day for the critics and skeptics to point the finger with smug satisfaction and declare, your Savior was a fraud.
So these are various videos that you can purchase at various places. And if you have questions about any of this and other stuff, make sure you put it in the chat. But again, these kind of tools are really helpful to kind of enlighten the experience, give people a good experience at the beginning of your service, and maybe if they get there early, you can be running something else. All right, Mike, let's just jump on here. Let's move along. Let's go with tip number 8, fine-tune your video.
Yes, fine-tune your video. Verify your stream. The most important thing is that your internet is working and that you have no outages. So do speed tests repeatedly during the time that you're streaming. Optimize your encoder settings. Make sure that you're giving yourself the best possibility of your stream working well. Your resolution settings and your bit rate. First two things we always talk about when somebody's not getting a signal out. And then also your frame rate. So those are items that you need to look at. Make sure that you're at the best setting and test it repeatedly before you get to the Easter weekend. And adjust your cameras cautiously, carefully. Here's one thing, and a bonus tip on cameras. Write down the settings that you have programmed into your camera settings. You can, a lot of cameras, you can save them like you're saving to a hard drive, but write them down, because power outages, things happen that may reset that, and you may on the fly have to come back and have settings. So I have a document that covers every one of these points for my team. In case the wheels come off the bus, here's the document that says, here's the resolution, here's the bit rate, here's the frame rate, here's the camera settings, and here's the lighting settings. But as we saw earlier, again, I'd come back to lighting as being more important than almost everything. And then your graphics and overlays.
Hey guys,
just like our videos here.
StreamingChurch.tv. We're going to talk a little bit about setting up your live encoder and the specific settings you should use, and I'm going to use OBS Studio here, although any live encoder has very similar settings, just have to find them in different places. In OBS cases, you want to click settings down here in the bottom right, and when you click that, you'll get a window that opens up, and you want to go over here to output settings. And let's start with video bitrate. 2,000 kilobytes per second is what I have set, but this is going to depend for you on the amount of upload speed you have, and even your people you have in your target audience, people watching your stream. So when it comes to the upload speed here, your bit rate, it's going to depend. I have a good rule of thumb. I say you should have at least 3 times the upload speed of what you send. So let's say you have 10 megabytes per second upload. You should do a speed test every time you stream, because it does fluctuate. The internet does change and things happen. So let's say you have 10 megabytes per second. 10,000 kilobytes per second would be the translation on that. You could upload 3 megabytes per second, because that would be 3 times. Actually, 9 would be the perfect example of 3 times. So you could do 3 megabytes per second in theory. But again, this is going to depend on what your resolution is. If you're doing 720p, I would encourage you to keep it around 15 to 10,000 kilobytes per second. If you're going to do 1080p, you could. And you could do probably 25 to 3,000 kilobytes per second, maybe a little more. But you're not going to see much more of a difference if you go up to 4,000 or 5,000. In fact, it could be a real problem, because depending on your upload speed, or depending on the people watching your video, their download speed can be a problem. So there's other ways to get around that. For the sake of time, I would keep it very simple and make sure, unless you're doing flat screen TVs all over the place, you don't really need a high video bit rate. All right, so let's look at audio bit rate. 128 is a good one to have. Your software encoder, you could do X264. That's what I do. The thing about X264 is it's gonna have a little more of a load on your CPU. But if you have a newer computer and you have a solid CPU, X264 is fine. You could do something else like H264, and that's fine as well. But I like X264 the best. But you can, all these things we're talking about, you need to test. Encoder preset, very fast. So that's people think, oh, very fast, it's going to put a real big load on your CPU. No, not really. It's actually less of a load if you do very fast by the default. And so I would definitely keep it at very fast. Again, just a safe setting to have. You could, and again, you can go to encoder presets. We're not going to go there, but you could. Audio encoder should be AAC default. That's really the only one you have here in this simple mode, and that's the best one to have, and you should be recording in that as well. Your recording path, you make sure you put it wherever you're going to look for your videos when you're recording OBS, and your recording quality should be the stream, same as your stream. And your recording format, again, should be in an MPEG-4.MP4. That's really what you want, and that makes a very streamable video. Now, there are advanced settings here that we can get into later. I've actually had a video on that, but for the sake of time and simplicity, I would stick with the simple mode, and you can always reach out to us at streamingchurch.com. Michael, sorry I cut you off there. We've been doing these
That's all right,
webinars
man.
for years, and by far the smoothest webinar we've done so far. I'm being sarcastic. All right, so again, if you have questions about this, put it in your chat, because I know we covered this live encoder settings really quickly here, and I know it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. All right, so the next part of this is actually, when it comes to your encoders, fine-tuning your audio on your encoder, but also you want to make sure when it comes to audio, it's one of the most important things when it comes to streaming video. And we've talked about this, we've beat this drum a lot. You can have great video, but if your audio is lousy, nobody's going to stick around. So you want to make sure you use the right microphones. And what I mean by that is different microphones have different purposes. There's handheld mics, there's lavalier mics, there's headset mics, there's what they call boundary microphones, there's instrument microphones. Make sure you're using the right microphone and make sure you have it in the right place. You want to minimize the background noise as much as possible. If you've got squeaky doors going into your auditorium, put some grease on it. If you have different things that make a lot of noise, maybe a platform makes a lot of noise, perhaps throwing down some carpet would be good. You want to try to minimize the background noise. Test and adjust your levels. Again, you'll hear this, hitting this over and over again in this webinar. pretty much everything else we talk about. Make sure you test things and adjust things. You want to make sure you're listening to your stream, you know, that's actually going out, not just a house mix, but what's actually going on the internet. You can adjust this stream audio using EQ, using compression, using reverb. And by the way, if you want to listen to a really good podcast, we interviewed James Wassam just a couple weeks ago. He talked a lot about audio, and you can just go to streamingchurch.tv/resources and scroll down and look for our podcast, or you can just go anywhere you get your podcast and look for Church Solutions Podcast. And we have a great little podcast about audio. Also have a blog at blog.streamingchurch.tv. Monitor your online audio. I alluded to this earlier, but you really need to monitor it when you're testing it, as well as you're actually doing the streaming service. Make sure you do this. Here's a quick little audio tip.
Want your live stream sound better? Yeah, I thought so. Here's how you get consistency across all playback sources. That means wherever somebody's listening, they're getting a good listening experience. After you mix on Sunday, go back and listen to your stream on every kind of playback source you think someone might listen on. So like headphones, earbuds, your phone, laptop speakers, sound bar, in the car, wherever you think someone might be listening, and take notes. Make a note of what sounds the same from source to source and what sounds different. Then, next time you mix, pull up those notes, take a look at them, and then start to analyze what you can do in your mix to make those inconsistencies between playback sources more consistent. That'll get your mix sounding great no matter where your audience is listening.
That's a good little tip there that you can do. Record your stuff and listen to it later. All right, Steve Lacy, let's talk about, what is it, tip number 10 when it comes to successful streaming, dress rehearsal events.
Yeah, and I alluded to this in the checklist that we had, that we will go through. They'll have that checklist available, and we'll go through this dress rehearsal. Again, we'll start. We actually end our dress rehearsal with prayer, where we take actually all of the teams that are together. We pray as a group, and then we pray individually over the different areas. So we got a tech team, we've got ushers, we've got others that are coming in. One of the key things is to go through the order of service, focus on the specifics. The key things is the timing and the transitions. So knowing that Michelle's going to lead the second song, or how the pastor is going to hand off from, or the person doing announcements, how they're going to hand off to the pastor, or pre-run video, all that sort of thing. You need to focus on all of those as you go through it, so you know that, hey, I don't have a shot of the drums when, you know, an alternate singer's starting the next song. So there's some other elements there. So you want to simulate the real experience, and you want to be flexible. So you're gonna mess up in the run through. You're gonna mess up in the real time, but you want to be flexible and be, you know, kind of go with the flow with this as well. So another thing that some churches do is they'll record the dress rehearsal, go through the walkthrough and record the dress rehearsal, and that will be useful for a playback later, or maybe a simulated live or that sort of thing. So
Absolutely.
So we go through the rehearsal, and then we bring in all of our teams, children's leaders, ushers, everybody together, and we pray as a group and go through the order of service for everyone's, in case there's anything special going on as well. So you want to do that this Easter, because there's probably something special going to be going on this Easter as well.
Yeah, Easter services can be a little different at times, so you want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. Let's talk a little bit about lower graphics, lower thirds. Here's a couple examples for you. And again, you can make these yourself for your live streaming. You can have lower thirds. Most live encoders will allow you to do that. You can get them at Church Motion Graphics or Motion Worship, Pro Content, Shift Worship, Easy Worship, Sunday Social, Renewed Vision. There are just a few of the companies that you can purchase different graphics, and also lower thirds for that matter, or you can make them yourself if you have like Photoshop. Something like that is definitely an important thing. All right, so let's move on here with Michael. Talk about after your service, like sharing a closing video, perhaps, Mike.
Yeah. So at the end of your service, you've done everything right. The wheels didn't come off your bus like Phil's today, and everything worked perfectly. But now what? People want to hang out oftentimes afterwards. It's like at a live service. People want to mingle and hang out and chat. And so make sure you extend that, and you can play another video, or you can have let's have a follow-up conversation. But most importantly for me is ask them to take a next step. Here's what you learned today. Here's what I want you to do because of what you learned today. Click this link, fill out this form, whatever that may be, and be willing to linger as much as people are willing to hang out, because they may have something that very deeply impacted them during the service, and they need to talk about that, and they need to have somebody around that they can have a conversation with, because they may have made a new life decision in the context of their faith, and they need to talk about it. So be willing to hang out, and don't bail.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned follow-up, Mike. What about those things? What about follow-up?
Well, it's something you need to build into your systems on a weekly basis, but especially at Easter. People are coming, they're coming as guests, and we want to be able to chat with them, have conversations with them, be responsive, but very much so have an online form. A lot of churches use JotForm. It's easy. Most of what they do you can have for free. You're just going to ask for basic information, and one of the ways we do that is we also include prayer requests on there. Whatever prayer request you have today, click this link, fill out the form, tell us what we can pray about for you, and then we follow up and we pray on them. And if it's something critical, they're going into the hospital, whatever, it helps us take next steps to follow up with them so that we can be there for people after they've attended our Easter service. And urgency. I cannot stress this enough. The quicker you can respond, if not immediately after the service, it was a text, an email, something. It was great to see you at church today. I'm so glad you were our guest. You know, here's something big that's coming up next. You won't want to miss this. And then, oh yeah, shameless plug for StreamingChurch.tv. We actually have an automated email system that's built into our streaming platform that allows you to have a trickle email going out to guests. It's set up, it's automated. People come to the platform, and if they provide an email or sign into Facebook, they'll begin to get emails telling them, we're so glad you came, and we hope you come back, and here's a reason to come back. And you can modify those emails to make them say anything you want them to say. But the most important thing, it's automated, and it's going to happen to help people come back and visit your church and consider this to be their home church.
Yeah. Follow-up is so important, and you really need to interact with your people. Here's just an example. This is actually from JotForm, and this is one of their templates, but they have multiple templates you could use. And you could create your own. So you could put a JotForm link on your platform so people can click on it, and you can make that available. Again, follow-up, just really an important tool to reaching people. I'm going to skip the closing video. This was a closing video. I'm just going to skip that for the sake of time, but you could run a closing video that, again, you could purchase from somebody or make your own. But it's important to hang around after the live event, at least for a little while. So before we take Q&A here, if you have some questions, put them down here. Here are some of the resources that we offer at streamingchurch.tv. We do monthly webinars. We have a blog at blog.streamingchurch.tv that we do every week. We have the Church Solutions podcast that I alluded to earlier. And of course, we provide streaming video for churches and ministries. Coming up, we have a webinar coming up next month. Charlton Heston is in it. Oh, no, he's not. But the actual webinar is called The 10 Commandments of Streaming Video, or until we come up with a longer name. And we're going to talk about streaming video and the 10 most important things when it comes to streaming video. And you can sign up for that later, not now, but later at webinar.streamingchurch.tv. That webinar is going to be April 16th at 12 noon. And, you're going to like that. So Q&A time. You have any questions? all you have to do is type them in the chat right now. We will be happy to answer them. And I'll tell you right now, don't ask me why I use LibreOffice for our presentations, because I won't use it again. You know what I'm saying? Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right. So some questions. Anybody have any questions? That we've covered this stuff really fast. We know that it's a little bit of a challenge.
I just thought of something as we were pressing through there. I would encourage you that if you are going to add new equipment to your Big Easter experience, get it done yesterday. Make sure that you run 5, 10, 20 tests with that new gear, and do not wait till the last second, because it will fail you like LibreOffice did fail today.
All right. All right. Here's a question. Somebody asked, what is the most common problem when it comes to streaming video? So I don't know if one of you guys want to answer that. We do a lot of tech support here. We do streaming video. What's the most common problem that people run into in trying to stream their services?
Well, since I'm the Sunday guy most of the time, if you sign in and you need crisis help, we're here for you, and it's usually me on Sundays. What I get more than probably anything is internet issues. And so that's why we talk about checking your speed constantly during the live service to make sure you're getting what you think you're getting. If your company, your internet service provider is telling you you have 20 megabytes of upload speed, let me assure you, you do not have 20 megabytes of upload speed. That number is the max that you might have, and it fluctuates. So when as Phil talked about how big that bit rate is, I like to always squeeze it down. And the gamer pros who stream more than anybody in the world, 1.5 megabytes is their magic number. But beyond that, check your internet, check your software. Probably the second biggest thing is frozen computer, or frozen software, which is easily fixed. Turn everything off and restart your computer. But
like LibreOffice,
in the middle of service, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Here's another question I got. You mentioned advertising. What's a good starting point for advertising? Where should I advertise? Social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Once again, Michael, you're kind of the social media guy here. You want to handle that?
So I won't call any of the platforms easy, but I would say use either Facebook/Instagram or Google Ads. Both give you the ability to target based on proximity. So basically draw a circle around your city. Let's say you want to do a 10-mile perimeter. You can set that up. I find that a little easier on Google Ads. And so people are always with their device saying, hey, Siri or Google or whoever they're going to talk to, find a church near me. That's a big search. And now my phone's actually doing it since I said one of the magic activators. And so build your ad in that context. Find a church near me. And people are looking for churches. I'm telling you, folks, people are looking for your church. You just got to get in front of them and be able to present something, a nice video saying, hey, come be our guest. We'd love you to be our guest. Here's why we think our church is awesome and we could serve you so well in our community. Come on and try out the Easter service.
Another key point to that is back to our first point, is know your audience, who you're trying to attract. So that's going to steer where you're going to spend your advertising dollars too. If you're looking for the young millennials or younger than millennials, and maybe TikTok's the place, or
that may be the one. Yeah. True. Good point, Steve. And this doesn't have to be expensive. There are a lot of great ads. I used to run at $25. I was running $50 a month, And I got so many people to our live stream with $50 a month. And I know that's a lot for some folks and it's nothing for others, but driving traffic to your live stream is the best way to qualify people to become members of your church. And it doesn't have to be expensive.
All right. Sounds good. Any other questions out there? I see something
We-
here. Go ahead,
yeah.
Steve. You want to read it?
Yeah.
I
So
can
we won't
read
laugh
it.
at your question. Go for it.
We have many shut-ins that are older that are analog only. So we do a telephone conference call with them from my iPhone. What is the best way to get the best sound quality to input to my device? Ooh, that's a good question because
That's a great question.
that's hard, especially the iPhones now, the newer ones. It's a little bit of a challenge. I don't have an answer for that. The best.
I do. I
Oh, okay.
do.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. Answer.
So podcasters have made this world brilliant for us. They often do it remote. They do it from an iPhone. There are so many inexpensive lavalier mics or boundary mics that attach to your iPhone that are literally made for what you're doing. My wife does a thing with Steve's wife, and they have channels, and they have these little bitty mics that are wireless that just clip on your shirt. And so it's really the best quality sound that you can get out of a mobile device, tablet or phone, and have a good experience for people that are on the other end.
Do they connect with Bluetooth?
Some do, yes. There's Bluetooth. There are some that'll work through your Wi-Fi, and there's also hardline plug-in ones as
Oh, there
well.
is? Even with the new, because I use the Apple ear things, and
Yep,
they
yep.
seem to work really well
Yep.
for me.
I'm using a set of another brand, and usually I have pretty good luck with them, but I've dropped them enough time. It's about time to replace them with the new set.
Yeah. Okay. Question. We're going to wrap things up here, but very quickly, what's the best live encoder? What is the best live encoder that you recommend for streaming video? I'll take a stab at that and I'll let these other guys jump in. I used to be against hardware live encoders when we first started to do this in 2008. But now I'm much more pro on hardware encoders. So in other words, instead of having software encoder on your computer, you would get a box, which would be a hardware encoder. I like Epiphan. I like Epiphan because of their customer support. They're not the cheapest, but they are good. They work. There are some other devices coming out there. I can't remember the one that one of the guys that used to work at Epiphan recommended, but I like hardware encoders if you can afford it. And I think because they're only doing one job, they're just encoding, and they're better now than they were 15 years ago. Steve, Michael, any other thoughts on encoders for streaming video?
Somebody's asking about the spelling of Epiphan, and they nailed it. That is correct. So I would agree with Phil in that I think the service that's provided after the purchase is the most important thing. Hardware encoders are more consistent and they last longer in most cases. So Chandler's saying that Matrox is a good one. There are probably, in fact, we've talked about that. We'll probably do a podcast or a webinar. You know, the 5 best hardware encoders under $1,000, because there are several really good ones now that are in that range that are very reliable.
We did a webinar last year on
Oh, that's
software
right.
encoders, software encoders 1 month and hardware encoders the next month. I think maybe June. But if you go to streamingchurch.tv/resources, no, you don't want to go there. You want to go webinar.streamingchurch.tv. That's where you sign up, but there's also past webinar, a link in there for past webinars. You can click on that and you can see all the different webinars we've done. And one of those was hardware encoders, as well as another one was software.
There is another link for that, which is help me, Steve. streamingchurch.tv
Webinar.
/webinar. That would be the correct one right now, because the other one actually doesn't have recordings anymore. Sorry,
It
Phil.
doesn't? It doesn't?
No.
Huh.
No,
I guess I
I'll
missed
fix
a
it.
memo on that, didn't I? All right.
Yeah, you know, we didn't have our pre-service meeting, and now the wheels are coming off our bus.
That's what we get. All right. One more time on the link to past webinars. What is it?
streamingchurch.tv/webinar.
All right. Okay. Now this is again another smooth webinar. All right. Any other questions before we go away? I'm sorry, I'm being sarcastic here, but
Sarcasm.
we'll fix all this. We'll make it look perfect, and you can get the recorded version. So if you have any questions, go to streamingchurch.tv, and you can also, I think, Michael, later, probably tomorrow, there'll be this will be available for other people to share, right?
Yep, the recording, we'll send the recording out to everyone. If you need anything specific, just email us at support@streamingchurch.tv, and we've got a ton of resources, links, etc. We love helping you do what you do better. That's what we're here for, and that's why we do these webinars.
Folks, thank you so much for being a part of our webinar today. Thank you for your patience. We sure appreciate it, and join us next month for another webinar. On behalf of Steve Lacey and Michael Gray, I'm Phil Thompson. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for being with us.